हेलो दोस्तों, बिगनर्स पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमी। सप्लाई कर्व ऑफ अ फर्म। A firm is supplies is the quantity that it choose to sell at given price, given technology, and given the prices of factors of production. A table describing the quantities sold by a firm at various prices, technology, and prices of factors remaining unchanged is called a supply schedule. We may also represent the information as a graph called a supply curve. The supply curve of a firm shows the levels of output plotted on the x-axis that the firm chooses to produce, corresponding to different values of the market price plotted on the y-axis. Again, keeping technology and prices of factors of production unchanged. We distinguish between the short-run supply curve and the long-run supply curve. Short-run supply curve of a firm. Let us turn to figure 4.7 and derive a firm's short-run supply curve. We shall split this derivation into two parts. We first determine a firm's profit maximizing output level when the market price is greater than or equal to the minimum AVC. This done, we determine the firm's profit maximizing output level when the market price is less than the minimum AVC. Price is greater than or equal to the minimum AVC. Suppose the market price is P1 which exceed the minimum AVC. We start out by equating P1 with SMC on the rising part of the SMC curve. This leads to the output level Q1. Note also that the AVC at Q1 does not exceed the market price P1. Thus all three conditions highlighted in section 3 are satisfied at Q1. Hence, when the market price is P1, the firm's output level in the short run is equal to Q1. Price is less than the minimum AVC. Suppose the market price is P2, which is less than the minimum AVC. We have argued सी फिगर ये इस प्रकार के कर्व बनेंगे एस एम सी एस ए सी ए वी सी। प्राइस कॉस्ट इधर है और इस एक्सेस पे क्या है, आउटपुट। See condition 3 in section 3 that if a profit maximizing firm produce a positive output in the short run, then the market price P2 must be greater than or equal to the AVC at the output level. But notice from figure 4.7 that for all positive output levels, AVC strictly exceed P2. In other words, it cannot be the case that the firm supplies a positive output. So, if the market price is P2, the firm produces zero output. Combining case 1 and 2, we reach an important conclusion. A firm's short-run supply curve is the rising part of the SMC curve from and above the minimum AVC together with zero output for all prices strictly less than the minimum AVC. In figure 4.8, the bold line represents the short-run supply curve of the firm. The short-run supply curve of a firm. The short-run supply curve of a firm which is based on its short-run marginal cost curve SMC and average variable cost curve AVC is represented by the bold line. Long-run supply curve of a firm. Let us turn to figure 4.9 and derive the firm's long-run supply curve. As in the short-run case, we split the derivation into two parts. We first determine the firm's profit maximizing output level when the market price is greater than or equal to the minimum long run AC. This done, we determine the firm's profit maximizing output level when the market price is less than the minimum long run AC. Price greater than or equal to the minimum LRAC. Suppose the market price is P1, which exceeds the minimum LRAC. Upon equating P1 with LRMC on the rising part of the LRMC curve, we obtain output level Q1. Note also that the LRAC at Q1 does not exceed the market price P1. Thus, all three conditions highlighted in section 3 are satisfied at Q1. Hence, when the market price is P1, the firm's supplies in the long run become an output equal to Q1. Price less than the minimum LRAC. Suppose the market price is P2, which is less than the minimum LRAC. We have argued, see condition 3 in section 3, that if a profit maximizing firm produce a positive output in the long run, the market price P2 must be greater than or equal to the LRAC at that output level. But notice from figure 4.9 that for all positive output levels, LRAC strictly exceeds P2. In other words, it cannot be the case that the firm supplies a positive output, so when the market price is P2, the firm produces zero output. Combining case 1 and 2, we reach an important conclusion. A firm's long-run supply curve is the rising part of the LRMC curve from and above the minimum LRAC together with zero output for all price less than the minimum LRAC. In figure 4.10, the bold line represents the long-run supply curve of the firm. The shutdown point. Previously, while deriving the supply curve, we have discussed that in the short run the firm continues to produce as long as the price remains greater than or equal to the minimum of AVC. Therefore, along the supply curve, as we move down, the last price output combination at which the firm produces positive output is the point of minimum AVC where the SMC curve cuts the AVC curve. Below this, there will be no protection. This point is called the short run shutdown point of the firm. In the long run, however, the shutdown point is the minimum of LRAC curve, the normal profit and break even point, the minimum level of profit that is needed to keep a firm in the existing business is defined as normal profit. A firm that does not make normal profits is not going to continue in business. Normal profits are therefore a part of the firm's total cost. It may be useful to think of them as an opportunity cost for entrepreneurship. Profit that a firm earns over and above the normal profit is called the supernormal profit. In the long run, a firm does not produce if it earns anything less than the normal profit. In the short run, however, it may produce even if the profit is less than this level. The point on the supply curve at which a firm earns only normal profit is called the break even point of the firm. The point of minimum average cost at which the supply curve cuts the LRAC curve in short run SAC curve is therefore the break-even point of a firm. Opportunity cost in economics. One often en- encounters the concept of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost of some activity is the gain foregone from the second best activity. Suppose you have rupees 10,000 which you decide to invest in your family business. What is the opportunity cost of your action if you do not invest this money? You can either keep it in the house safe, which will give you zero return, or you can deposit it in either bank 1 or bank 2, in which case you get an interest at the rate of 10% or 5% respectively. So the maximum benefit that you may get from other alternative activities in the interest form the bank one, but this opportunity will no longer be there once you invest the money in your family business. The opportunity cost of investing the money in your family business is therefore the amount of foregone interest from the bank one. Determine determinants of a firm's supply curve. In the previous section, we have seen that a firm's supply curve is a part of its marginal cost curve. Thus, any factor that affects a firm's marginal cost curve is, of course, a determinant of its supply curve. In this section, we discuss two such factors. Technological progress. Suppose a firm uses two factors of production, say capital and labor, to produce a certain good. Subsequent to an organizational innovation by the firm, the same levels of capital and labor now produce more units of output. Put differently, to produce a given level of output, the organizational innovation allows the firm to use fewer units of output. It is expected that this will lower the firm's marginal cost at any level of output, that is, there is a rightward or downward shift of the MC curve. As the firm's supply curve is essentially a segment of the MC curve, technological progress shifts the supply curve of the firm to the right at any given market price. The firm now supplies more units of output. Now, input prices. A change in input prices also affects a firm's supply curve. If the price of an input, say the wage rate of labor, increases, the cost of production rises. The consequent increases in the firm's average cost at any level of output is usually accompanied by an increase in the firm's marginal cost at any level of output. That is, there is a leftward or upward shift of the MC curve. This means that the firm's supply curve shifts to the left at any given market price. The firm now supplies fewer units of output. Impact of a unit tax on supply. A unit tax is a tax that the government imposes per unit sale of output. For example, suppose that the unit tax imposed by the government is rupees 2, then if the firm produces and sell 10 units of the good, the total tax that firm must pay to the government is 10 into rupees 220. How does the long run supply curve of a firm change when a unit tax is imposed? Let us turn to figure 4.11. Before the unit tax is imposed, LRMC0 and LRAC0 are respectively the long run marginal cost curve and the long run average cost curve of the firm. Now, suppose the government puts in place a unit tax of rupees t, since the firm must pay an extra rupees t for each unit of the good produced. The firm's long run average cost and long run marginal cost at any level of output increased by rupees t. In figure 4.11, LRMC and LRAC are respectively the long run marginal cost curve and the long run average cost curve of the firm upon imposition of the unit tax. Recall that the long-run supply curve of a firm is the rising part of LRMC curve from end above the minimum LRAC together with zero output for all prices less than the minimum LRAC. Using this observation in figure 4.12, it is immediate that S0, S1 are respectively the long-run supply curve of the firm before and after the imposition of the unit tax. Notice that the unit tax shifts the firm's long-run supply curve to the left at any given market price. The firm now supplies fewer units of output. Cost curves and the unit tax. LRAC and LRMC are respectively the long-run average cost curve and the long-run marginal cost curve of a firm before a unit tax is imposed. LRAC1 and LRMC1 are respectively the long-run average cost curve and the long-run marginal cost curve of a firm after a unit tax of rupees t is imposed. Supply curves and unit tax. S0 is the supply curve of a firm before a unit tax is imposed. After a unit tax of rupees t is imposed, S1 represents the supply curve of the firm. Next one is market supply curve. The market supply curve shows the output levels plotted on the t-axis, t on the x-axis, that firms in the market produce in aggregate corresponding to different values of the market price plotted on the y-axis. How is the market supply curve derived? Consider a market with n firms, firm 1, firm 2 and firm 3 and so on. Suppose the market price is fixed at p, then the output produced by the n firms is aggregate is supply of firm 1 at price p, supply of firm 2 at price p plus supply of firm n at price p. In other words, the market supply at price p is the summation of the supplies of individual firms at that price. Let us now construct the market supply curve geometrically with just two firms in the market, firm 1 and firm 2. The two firms have different cost structures. Firm 1 will not produce anything if the market price is less than P1, while firm 2 will not produce anything if the market price is less than P2. Assume also that P2 is greater than P1. In panel A of figure 4.13, we have the supply curve of firm 1 1 denoted by S1. In panel B, we have the supply curve of firm 2 denoted by S2. Panel C of figure 4.13 shows the market supply curve denoted by SM. When the market price is strictly below P1, both firms choose not to produce any amount of the good. Hence, market supply will also be zero for all such prices. For a market price greater than or equal to P1 but strictly less than P2, only firm 1 will produce a positive amount of the good. Therefore, in this range, the market supply curve coincides with the supply curve of firm 1. For a market price greater than or equal to P2, both firms will have positive output levels. For example, consider a situation wherein the market price assumes the value P3. Observe that P3 exceeds P2. Given P3, firm 1 supplies Q3 units of output while firm 2 supplies Q4 units of output. So the market supply at price P3 is Q5, where Q5 equals to Q3 plus Q4. Notice how the market supply curve SM in panel C is being constructed. We obtain SM by taking a horizontal summation of the supply curves of the two firms in the market S1 and S2. ये हो गया S1, ये हो गया S2 और ये हो गया SM. It should be noted that the market supply curve has been derived for a fixed number of firms in the market. As the number of firms changes, the market supply curve shifts as well. Specifically, if the number of firms in the markets increases and decreases, the market supply curve shifts to the right to left. We now supplement the graphical analysis given above with a related numerical example. Consider a market with two firms, firm 1 and firm 2. Let the supply curve of firm 1 be as follow. S1P is equal to 0 or ये P equals to smaller than 10 or P equals to greater than or equal to 10. Notice that S1P indicates that 1 from 1 produce an output of 0 if the market price P is strictly less than 10, and 2 from 1 produce an output of P minus 10 if the market price P is greater than or equal to 10. Let the supply curve of firm 2 be as follow. S2P 0 or P minus 15. P is smaller than 15. P is greater than 15. The interpretation of SP2 is identical to that of S1P and is hence omitted. Now the market supply curve SMP simply sum of the supply curve of the two firms. In other words, SMP is equal to S1 P S2 P दोनों को कर देंगे हम ऐड, क्या निकल आएगा SM. But this means that SM is as follow. SM is equal to ये तीन इक्वेशन बन जाएंगी. Price elasticity of supply. The price elasticity of supply of a good measures the responsiveness of quantity supplied to change in the price of the good. More specifically, the price elasticity of supply denoted by ES is defined as follows. Price elasticity of supply ES percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. क्या आंसर आ जाएगा डेल्टा क्यू divided by Q into P divided by delta P, where delta Q is change in quantity of the good supplied to the market has market price changed by delta P. To make matters concrete, consider the following numerical example. Suppose the market for cricket balls is perfectly competitive when the price of a cricket ball is rupees 10. Let us assume that 200 cricket balls are produced in aggregate by the firms in the market. When the price of a cricket ball rises to rupees 30, let us assume that 1000 cricket balls are produced in aggregate by the firms in the market. The percentage change in quantity supplied and market price can be estimated using the information summarized in the table below. Price of cricket balls P, quantity of cricket balls produced and sold Q. Old price P1 equals to 10, new price P2 equals to 30, Q1 equals to 200, Q2 equals to 100. Percentage change in quantity supplied delta Q divided by Q1 into 100. पूरा आंसर निकालेंगे तो क्या आ जाएगा 400। परसेंटेज चेंज इन मार्केट प्राइस डेल्टा पी डिवाइड बाई P1 इंटू 100। देयरफॉर देयरफॉर प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ सप्लाई ई एस 400 डिवाइड बाई 200 आंसर आ जाएगा 2। When the supply curve is vertical, supply is completely insensitive to price and the elasticity of supply is zero. In other cases, when supply curve is positively sloped with a rise in price, supply rises and hence the elasticity of supply is positive. Like the price elasticity of demand, the price elasticity of supply is also independent of units. The geometric method. Consider the figure 4.14. Panel A shows a straight line supply curve. S is a point on the supply curve. It cuts the price axis at its positive range, and as we extend the straight line, it cuts the quantity axis at M, which is at its negative range. The price elasticity of this supply curve at the point S is given by the ratio MQ0 divided by OQ0. For any point S on such a supply curve, we see that MQ0 is greater than OQ0. The elasticity at any point on such a supply curve, therefore V will greater than 1. In panel C, we consider a straight line supply curve and S is a point on it. It cuts the quantity axis at M, which is at its positive range. Again, the price elasticity of this supply curve at the point S is given by the ratio MQ0 divided by OQ0. Now MQ0 is smaller than OQ0 and hence ES is smaller than 1. Can be any point of on the supply curve, and therefore at all points on such a supply curve ES is smaller than 1. Now we can to panel B. Here the supply curve goes through the origin. One can imagine that the point M has coincided with the origin here. That is MQ0 has become equal to OQ0. The price elasticity of this supply curve at the point S is given by the ratio OQ0 divided by OQ0, which is equal to 1. At any point on a straight line supply curve going through the origin, price elasticity will be 1. Price elasticity associated with straight line supply curve. In panel A, price elasticity ES at S is greater than 1. In panel B, इसमें price elasticity ES at S is equal to 1. In panel C, price elasticity S is less than 1. In a perfectly competitive market, firms are price takers. The total revenue of a firm is the market price of the good multiplied by the firm's output of the good. For a price taking firm, average revenue is equal to the market price. For a price taking firm, marginal revenue is equal to market price. The demand curve that a firm faces in a perfectly competitive market is perfectly elastic. It is a horizontal straight line at the market price. The profit of a firm is the difference between total revenue earned and total cost incurred. If there is a positive level of output at which a firm's profit is maximized, in the short run, three conditions must hold at that output level. P equals to SNC. SNC is non-decreasing. P P is greater than and is smaller and equal to AVC. If there is a positive level of output at which a firm's profit is maximized in the long run, three conditions must hold at that output level. P equals to LRMC. P equals to LRMC. LRMC is non-decreasing. P is greater than or equal to LRAC. The short-run supply curve of a firm is the rising part of the SMC curve from and above minimum AVC together with zero output for all prices less than the minimum AVC. The long-run supply curve of a firm is the rising part of the LRMC curve from and above minimum LRAC together with zero output for all prices less than the minimum LRAC. Technological progress is expected to shift the supply curve of a firm to the right. An increase decrease in output prices is expected to shift the supply curve of a firm to the left right. The imposition of a unit tax shifts the supply curve of a firm to the left. The market supply curve is obtained by the horizontal summitation of the supply curves of individual firms. The price elasticity of supply of a good is the percentage change in quantity supplied due to 1% change in the market price of the good. ठीक है, और इसी के साथ ये चैप्टर हो जाता है ख़त्म। अब चलेंगे अगले चैप्टर में।